Should the San Francisco 49ers sign free agent wide receiver Gabe Davis, who was recently released by the Jacksonville Jaguars only 1 year after signing his deal? Now, this is the connection to the San Francisco 49ers. He is currently in the building today visiting with the 49ers. This was first put out there by Coach Yak on Twitter and has since been confirmed by multiple newsbreakers, guys like David Lombardi and others. So it is out there. It is confirmed. Gabe Davis is in the building, meeting with the San Francisco 49ers. It is also reported that he will be meeting with some other teams as well. And so the question becomes, should the San Francisco 49ers seriously consider signing Gabe Davis, who at one point was a ascending player in this league with what he was able to do with the Buffalo Bills? I mean, this is a big-bodied wide receiver who has put up some decent production in the NFL. I mean, it got him a big time contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars in free agency, but unfortunately, he just was not able to stay on the field. This has been his biggest issue since being in the league. Um, but even so, he has been a pretty solid producer for the most part in the NFL. And this was as the Bills for the majority of his time as the number two wide receiver behind Stephon Diggs at the time, which he was able to amass 163 total receptions for 2,730 receiving yards and 27 touchdowns. So he has produced. And unfortunately, since signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he only caught 20 passes for 239 yards and two touchdowns in 2024 in 10 games. Unfortunately for Gabe Davis, he tore his meniscus, and he's currently put him on a 6-month timetable for return, which, so he tore it in November. That's right around now. So it makes sense why he's meeting with teams and going out and seeing what he could potentially do for them or potentially, sign with a team like the San Francisco 49ers. So it is going to be fascinating to see if the 49ers pull the trigger on a player like Gabe Davis, considering their current wide receiver core. But again, the question becomes, should the San Francisco 49ers sign Gabe Davis? So this is my thing with Gabe. I was a big fan of him coming out of college. Again, big-bodied wide receiver, big frame, big target, has the ability to run routes, and is really good at high pointing the ball. Again, his biggest issue all revolves around staying healthy. If Gabe could stay healthy, I don't know, he might still be with the Jacksonville Jaguars, because again, he did sign a pretty sizable contract, and they decided after just one season that they had seen enough and they were ready to move on. So this is now I think the issue with Gabe Davis is, will Gabe come on and go from maybe being a one or two in an offense to becoming maybe the third, fourth, or even fifth option? Because the 6'2", 216-pound wide receiver is again coming back from injury. I don't anticipate the San Francisco 49ers would be looking to spend an exorbitant amount on him to come in. It would kind of be most likely a 1-year prove it type of deal. And that would have him in a wide receiver room with Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings. Of course, you're going to have Brandon Ayuk return at one point. So where does he fit? You've got Jacob Cowing. The 49ers drafted Jordan Watkins in the 4th round this year. Where is he ultimately going to fit? Again, they also signed Demarcus Robinson in free agency. So I don't anticipate that Gabe Davis would be coming in for a substantial role, and even in that room, you have to look outside of that room. You got George Kittle, who's one of the top targets on this team. Christian McCaffrey is one of the top targets on this team as a wide receiver, or excuse me, as a running back, used in the receiving game. So I don't see a ton of opportunities for him, especially with I wouldn't say super similar, but somewhat similar wide receiver in Jawan Jennings that we haven't even mentioned yet, who almost went over 1,000 yards receiving just last season. So again, it's a logjam at the position. There's already a ton of guys, and there's no guarantee that Gabe Davis has a clear path to a ton of targets. Now, he could elevate himself into that role. I mean, could you imagine? You got George Kittle on the field, Gabe Davis, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk. You're going big on big, basically. Maybe red zone fades, things like that, where you're trying to exploit matchups and certain situations, or exploiting one-on-one coverage where you can literally just throw the ball up and these guys will go up and get it. Obviously, I don't interpret the San Francisco 49ers as wanting to run their offense that way, but it becomes an option. It becomes something that you could consider. I do like Gabe Davis. The injuries over the last couple years are a bit concerning. And again, coming off a meniscus tear, he should be ready to go for training camp, so that won't be an issue. I don't expect it to linger into the regular season at all, but again, you never know. Injuries occur, things happen, and I think that all will be in consideration to what the 49ers would sign Gabe Davis to. Is he willing to go from $18 million per year on average to, let's say, $3 to $5 million per year on average, to be buried on a depth chart, potentially not have a ton of opportunities? Those, I think, are the questions that you have to ask. In a vacuum, yes, it would be great to have Gabe Davis with his abilities and what he can bring to the table. But are the San Francisco 49ers the best fit for Gabe Davis? I think that is the real question. He would probably be better suited on a roster that has less of a pecking order in front of him. Again, we've already talked about the loaded wide receiver room, but you don't even account for the fact that Kittle is going to take a ton of receptions. CMC is going to be taking a ton of receptions, and yeah, so that to me is really kind of where the concern lies from Gabe Davis's perspective. Now, I would imagine the 49ers would love to have another player, 26 years old, of Gabe's caliber, especially for a 1 year, $3 to $5 million deal. That would be awesome. And you can just use him in situational um, positions where you see fit, opposed to having to heavily use him all the time. So it'll be fascinating. I know the 49ers have a bit of a reputation for being able to kind of springboard guys into some bigger contracts, at least from the quarterback position. But we'll see if Gabe Davis feels, and if the 49ers even offer him. But I do think it is interesting that the 49ers are kind of poking around some wide receivers, showing some interest and bringing him in for a visit. So I'll ask you, do you think the San Francisco 49ers should sign Gabe Davis? And if they do sign him, what should that contract look like? And what would his role look like with the 49ers? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.